Hello and welcome to this episode of Neighbors Cooking. I am your chef and host Mitch, and we have a great show today. Now, here in Palm Springs, it has gotten hot. I think it was almost 100 degrees today, right, Joe?
Yeah.
So warm. And so I don't want my kitchen to be hot, so baking is over. No more puff pastry, no more phyllo dough, no more turning my oven on unless I absolutely have to. So I was thinking about what could I do that has a really fresh taste and easy to make and isn't going to make my kitchen super hot. So I decided to do these pork chops that we're going to broil in a pan, and then we're going to add this coconut cream sauce with onions and red pepper flakes and turmeric and brown pepper and soy sauce and some coconut cream. And we're going to create these delicious coconut seared pork chops. We're going to put that over a nice Jasmine coconut rice. The theme is coconut, and then we're going to do some bok choy, which we're just going to put in a pan real quick and just kind of fry up real fast in a little bit more coconut oil. So I'm going to go over the ingredients with you, and we're going to get started. So looking down here at the counter, we've got some salt and pepper that we're going to use these boneless pork chops on. Now, if you want to use bone-in, you can, and if you want to use thicker, I'm using pretty thin cut pork chops, but if you want to use thicker pork chops, you can, but these will cook quicker and you won't have to simmer them so long in your pan. So let's start off with getting those going. So I'm going to salt and pepper these. I've got my salt and my pepper mixed in here, and we're just going to salt and pepper them nicely on each side. The nice thing with pork, it's a nice lean meat. It's, I used to have a girlfriend who called it the other white meat, but she called it that for a different reason than but so we're gonna put a little bit of salt and pepper over the top of those, and then we're gonna take a couple of tablespoons of coconut oil. If you don't have coconut oil, you don't have to use coconut oil. Don't use olive oil though, because there's too much flavor in it. So we're not trying to get this, even coconut oil doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it has a high temperature threshold, so you can get your pan a little bit hotter. So let's get our pan going. I should have already had on, but these new ironclad pans will get plenty hot, plenty fast enough. If you haven't checked out the ironclad pans, you should. Just go on to ironclad.com, check the pans out. You were going to buy some, did you?
Not yet.
Cheapskate.
It's like $300.
For some of the sets, for some of the sets they are. So we're just going to put the coconut oil. You see, coconut oil is solid, so it's not like vegetable oil, but it will melt very quickly, and it has a high temperature, so it's not going to smoke and get all terribly burned. And I probably don't need all of it in there right now. All right, there we go. But it will melt very fast. So we'll get these going, and then we're going to get into everything else that we need to cut up and work on. While that's getting hot, let me see what just a little. While it's getting hot, we're going to cut up go through some of the other ingredients. So you're going to need one whole onion. I'm using a sweet yellow onion. There's 4 kinds of onions. There is red onions, yellow onions, sweet yellow onions, and white onions. They all have very unique flavor profiles, but this is, you want a sweet yellow onion. We've got about 2 tablespoons of garlic with some of the garlic oil. I've got 2 tablespoons of ginger. You could use fresh ginger if you want to grate it. This is just a ginger paste. I've got a teaspoon of turmeric, and a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. We've got a can of coconut cream. You could also use coconut milk if you're trying to get it to be a little less calorie-wise. So I'm using cream. You could use coconut milk. It comes in a can. You'll find it in the international foods in your grocery store. We've got either a teaspoon of soy sauce or a teaspoon of fish sauce. And we've got 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and some lemon juice and some green onions for some garnish at the end. So I already hear some sizzling going over here. So let's turn this down a little. Get our pork chops on. And you want it to sizzle because you want it to get nice and brown. And while those are sizzling, we're going to get to cutting up our other ingredients. I found the top for my mandolin. I was sure Joe hid that from me the other day. All right. So in this case, mandolins have a couple of settings. So we're going to go without the crinkle, and I'm going to turn it over so I've got a flat edge that we're cutting with. My little knob broke on this, so I may have to get a new one. There we go. Add it to my Christmas list, Joe. New mandolin for Mitch. All right. And we want the onions to be thin cut. So with a mandolin, you can choose your, and so we're going to go with a thin cut. And my dishwasher telling me it's done. And we're going to get our onion out. And we are going to, there's always something, there we go. All right. Thin cut onion. While we're looking at thin cut onions, there's another recipe that's really cool that you could do. If you take thin cut onions, put some baking oil on your cookie sheet, take the thin cut onion and put Parmesan cheese all over the top of it and stick it in your oven, and you get these beautiful onion ring snacks that are super healthy and they're not fried. Just a thought.
Can't kiss anybody after.
Yeah. Who are you kissing? So let's have a look at these over here and see how they're doing. We want them nice and brown on each side. There we go. Turn this up just a little bit. And let that start going. We're also going to cut up the scallions, or the green peppers, the green onions. I don't like to call them peppers. And we want all of the whites and some of the greens, so we can get rid of most of what's up here on the top. And there's about 6 here, and you're just going to thin cut these. These are for garnish at the end. Now before we started, I cooked up my rice already, so if you're going to make coconut jasmine rice, you're going to buy your rice, your jasmine rice, make sure you rinse it very well, and then whatever liquid, so usually with raw rice, you're going to add 2 to 1, so you would add 2 cups of fluid to 1 cup of rice to come up with your 2 cups of rice. So when you rinse the rice very well, get all the starch off of it, and then you will substitute 1 cup of the water with 1 cup of coconut milk, not coconut cream because it's too thick, but coconut milk, and you can have this delicious jasmine rice that's super easy. You could also just do regular jasmine rice, and I have seen in the store, I will never admit that I've purchased it, but I have seen in the store Uncle Ben's instant jasmine rice that you can throw in the microwave for 90 seconds. It's still rice. You know, the whole idea of this is that you can cook for your family and get these meals done in under 30 minutes and still have somebody else to clean up. All right. So the other thing, if you're using bone-in on your pork chops, those are going to take longer to cook, and you're not going to be done in your 30 minutes. In fact, you would probably, if you were using bone-in, have to simmer them in the sauce for probably 20 minutes to get the full cook. So you get them browned up, and then you would simmer them in the sauce for a longer time. With the boneless, we're not going to have to go through that process. All right. We're going to take these out for a few minutes. And using the same pan, we're going to take our onions and saute them. Again, break them up, thin cut. And since we're trying to get these to be pretty brown, we're also going to add some salt to help with the moisture. And we're just going to let those start to brown up. Make sure they're all broken apart. And they should brown pretty quickly. Have you ever had this dish, Joe?
No.
Neither have I.
You didn't even practice?
I didn't even practice. It's funny, I sometimes get super creative late at night and I start thinking about what I can put together for a dish, and it really goes to what I'm feeling like eating. So, and I look into my pantry and see what I have. And I happen to have a can of coconut milk or coconut cream in there. And I thought, well, what can I use that for? Because it's probably been in my cupboard for at least a couple of months. It's not something I cook with regularly. But I do like to get the things out of my pantry and not just have them sitting in there. Kind of like spices. How old's your oldest spice in your cabinet?
Oh God, years.
Don't let your spices stay in your cabinet for years. Spices are meant to be rotated out, and even if you don't, I've seen in people's kitchens where they've like bought, well, like my spice kit, you can see my spices. So everything is very organized and in nice order, but I also will empty those out and replace. I'll keep the bottles because they all look the same and they're nice. I like the look, but I'll go buy a replacement and fill it up. So they don't last forever. And also keep the little sealer cap on top of your spices. And when you close them up, it helps keep some of the freshness in.
So how long do you keep them for?
I don't keep my spices much longer than 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
So now I know, but I cook all the time, so I go through my spices pretty regularly. But it's up to you. Everybody's got, but I know lots of people, including Joe, who have years of spices in their cabinet. What about you, Bill?
I won't answer on the grounds of me.
So we have a few guests here tonight. We've got Bill, a friend of Joe's, who just moved here from Ohio, enjoying the Palm Springs sun. And then we have our regular guest, Randy. Randy is a gentleman that I help cook his food and help him with just his general things in life. He's 90 years old and he's a super nice person. And so I help him out every day with what he's got to do. I keep him out socially and keep him coming to events. So the show has become an event for him. And he's a retired actor, so he critiques me all the time. So you can see these onions are starting to get nice and brown, which is what we want. And now we're going to add in the garlic. And the reason you add the garlic after the onions start to brown is because the garlic will burn. This is also a toasted garlic, so what I do is I take the garlic and I toast it in the oven and then put it in oil and let it sit in oil. So it's roasted garlic in oil. Yum. All right, and then we're going to add our ginger. So you're building, I kind of talked about this the other day, you're building your spice profile or your flavor profile up. In fact, in my latest thing with Kitchen Catastrophes, I just added, it's all about sauces. The last 2 entries have been all about sauces. And you can really make or break a dish with the sauce. So you've got to build in those flavor profiles. So be sure to check out Kitchen Catastrophes on my webpage and on Neighbors Cooking and learn about sauces. When I went to culinary school, that was the first 4 weeks, 5 weeks, it was intense. We had to learn how to make basically 5, 6 sauces like perfectly. And the minute you messed up, our instructor was like, no good, do it again, do it again. I can't tell you how many times I made a bechamel sauce or any other sauce. So it is the basis for French cooking, but it's not so much the basis for my cooking any longer. Too much cream, too much butter. And I've learned that spices, if you put in the right seasons, the right spices, you can certainly get just as good, if not more depth in your flavor than adding a bunch of butter and unnecessary calories. So next to that, we're going to put in the turmeric. That looks really good. All right. And then from the turmeric, we're going to put in our red pepper flakes. If you don't like red pepper or you want it to be a little spicier, this is just a teaspoon. Put a little more in, put a little less in, but it's going to give it a kick for sure. That all start to cook in. Now the next thing we're going to add is our coconut cream. Now when you buy coconut cream and you pour it out of the can, you will find that it is separated inside of the can. That doesn't mean it's bad, it's just separated. So just whip it all together and it will come together. Now look at that. Now we're starting to see the deliciousness of the sauce we're making. And then I want to check that for spices. I mean for flavor. Oh my gosh, that is so good. All right, and the next thing we're gonna add in, so just that flavor, you get this really coconutty flavor and then you get the spice of the red pepper flake. And so it's like this competing battle. So I'm adding in fish sauce. You can add in soy sauce. It's basically the same flavor. It's just a teaspoon. It's not a lot. And then the brown sugar is optional. So the brown sugar will kind of take away some of that aggressive flavor. It'll kind of balance it out if you're looking for a little bit more sweetness than spice. So we're gonna add about a teaspoon of brown sugar. Again, this is optional. If you're diabetic, you probably don't want sugar in your dish. You can certainly exclude it and it will not hurt your dish at all. All right. There we go. We're gonna turn this down to a little simmer. Oh my gosh, that is so good. Here, Joe, taste.
Mmm.
Isn't that good?
Yum.
All right. We're then going to put our pork back into it. And we're going to let that all simmer together for a few more minutes. Make sure the sauce is covering them. And the onions. I suppose in a way this might even be considered German. I considered it more Caribbean in flavor, but I guess it could be a little bit German. All right, put the lid on. We're gonna let that simmer for a few minutes while we get the bok choy going. If you're not familiar with bok choy, it is Chinese cabbage. This is what it looks like. It comes together in a little bunch, kind of like, I've already separated, but kind of like this. You cut off the bottom, make sure you clean them because they are dirty, they're out of the ground. And even though they look really large right now, this is gonna stir fry down into something very small and compact. So when you're buying the small bok choy, buy one for each person that you're serving. If you're buying the big bok choy, so this is baby bok choy, and then there's adult bok choy, which is much like twice the size and twice the width. It doesn't cook up as quickly or as nicely, as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to, where is the little extra oil that I had somewhere? Here it is. We're going to put a little bit of oil into this pan, again, the coconut oil. And get that going. All right. Turn that down a little. Give that another minute. Let's keep simmering. And let me get this out of the way. All right, the last thing I want to add into our sauce here is the lime juice. So this is about 1 lime. I'm really fortunate. I have lime trees and orange trees and grapefruit trees right here in my backyard. So I can just go out and pick them. So the limes that we have today are right out of my backyard. All right, and that is for our garnish at the end. Let's take our bok choy. We're just going to put it in. There we go. Cover it up and let it start to steam. So we really haven't spent that much time on this. There wasn't a lot of prep. It's just a few measured items that you put out. The recipe is up on the page. Also, while this simmers, I want to tell you all that finally we're getting our YouTube channel up. So there's about 60 episodes up right now on our YouTube channel. There's a link in the Facebook on both our Neighbors Cooking and my personal Facebook to take you over to it. I hope you'll like it and subscribe to the channel. It's a great opportunity to see all of the amazing people who come on the show. I was kind of surprised to see actually how many shows we've done. So you and I alone have done about 50 shows.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No wonder why I'm a little porky.
Healthy. Not porky, everyone healthy. All right. And I am looking for, there we go. So while that is still simmering, I'm going to take a little bit of this zester with one of my limes. And this is just going to be for a little bit of decoration on the top. Not to eat. Well, this is not working very well. You need a new one. So we're not going to use the lime today. That's okay. That is doing very well. Keep going. So we're going to start getting ready to serve this. And Bill is going to be my taste tester today. Or victim. Whichever it might happen to be, I'm sure it will be successful. So we've got our jasmine rice, which I've already made. So we're going to put the jasmine rice right in the middle. There we go. I'm going to take one of the pork chops. We're going to slice this up just so that it's easy. You don't have to necessarily do this, but if you've got somebody standing in your kitchen trying to take a taste, probably a little easier. Over. There we go. All right. Good temperature. Pork, just like chicken, just needs to come to a nice pink on the inside. It does not have to be super white, contrary to popular belief. And then we'll take a little bit of our, just give it to rest a little more. Bok choy in there. Some nice color. We'll take some of our sauce and our onions. And we're going to go right across the top. And now I am going to have Bill come in and take the first test. Oh, sweet onions.
Looks marvelous.
So hopefully Joe can see that. Yep, all right, so Joe, you're gonna look right at this camera. Here's a fork for you. It's hot.
Very hot. Oh my God, that's wonderful.
Good?
Mmm,
All right.
delicious.
Well, your first meal at my house, so welcome and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. Welcome to our city and welcome to Palm Springs. Go have a seat and start eating, and that's going to be a wrap for today's show. So remember to check out our YouTube channel. The link is in my Facebook. Like us, follow us, subscribe to us, and as always, keep sharing the videos. You've created this great foodie community for all of us, and I am so thankful. And just keep watching and sharing. And until then, we'll see you again next week on Neighbors Cooking. Have a great week.